Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Diary of River Song story, Time in a Bottle, written by Emma Reeves and Matt Fitton. This is actually from Volume 4, which was the build-up of her meeting up with the Fourth Doctor, which is why it's in the Fourth Doctor era. But she doesn't meet him until the last story in the box set. So here we've got just a single adventure without the Doctor. I also have made a DVD cover. Looks really cool there. The spine, if you want to look at that. And some just basic information on the back there, for those of you who are interested. So let's go on to it. So this is the part of, as I've mentioned, part of Volume 4 of the Diaries of River Song. I haven't heard any of these stories before, okay? So I'm going into these completely blind. And this story really feels like it's setting up plot points for the story arc. In the last River Song story we've tackled from Volume 6, I believe. Or they're from Volume 5 or Volume 6. I can't remember. But either way, the ones that we've been looking at didn't have a plot line that goes into different stories. However, in previous River Song stories, from what I can gather, each box set would have their own storylines. So you would listen to them in audio, and you would follow the story through. And this story is mainly about setting up the plot points of this respective story arc. Oh, look, there's me in the hello in it, in which River Song encounters the Dyskoria, a group of demon-like creatures that manipulate time, because from River Song's point of view, the Time Lords are gone. There is no Time Lords thanks to the Time War. And because of this, these particular creatures, the Dyskoria, they can travel back in time as they please without any side effects. And so what they would do is they would go war with someone, learn from their mistakes, go back in time to alter themselves, to then proceed into victory. So basically they cannot lose. However, something went wrong in one of their battles and they got stuck in a timeless dimension. No, this has nothing to do with the timeless child, don't worry. So they're now on a planet on which time does not exist. And River Song, she's been hired by she teams up with a small group of people. One of them is an insect creature that wants to be reunited with her family, who were the opposing force of the Dyskoria. Another one is a professor that River Song used to know, and another one is a cyborg character who was a fan of River Song. And the story is mainly about them four teaming up to try and work out what's going on. Now, River Song initially believes that the Doctor is involved and that she's going to save him, who's been trapped by the Dyskoria. But spoilers, it's not the Doctor. So yeah, the story has a very simple premise. You get introduced to these four characters, and it sets up the villains of how they're going to be this big dramatic force throughout the rest of the storylines, throughout the rest of the preceding stories in the box set. And I think because of that, this story falls flat on its face. It is a unengaging experience, as the entire time you're listening to it, you just feel like it's set up and setting up these characters, setting up the villains, just set up with nothing really going for it. I like the idea of the Discoria, how they're these beings that can alter time to basically so they can win every victory. Basically what the Time Lords are doing when they set the Doctor back on to Skaro in Genesis of the Daleks. Basically they can do that without any hesitation. But because the story is simply just set up, we never in this story get the impression that they could really do it. We hear about it, but we don't get the feeling that they will do it. Because there's a lot of scenes where, there's scenes later on in the story in which River Song is talking to him, and they make so many threats throughout the story. And the first scene opens with River Song talking to one of them, and then when they're heading to this planet, they get caught up in a time field where these creatures can see them and make them live out their worst fears, which doesn't sound anything like they were planned to do. But they succeed. River's team succeeds into not giving in, and they still head to the planet. So yeah, it feels like they, despite them having a really OP concept, they seem really weak in this story, and I think I've done a tactical error in doing this story in this part of the marathon. For anybody else out there who's going to do a chronological marathon and has these, note to self, don't put it between season 13 of Classic Who, because throughout Tom Baker's second season, there are a lot of horror elements and tropes and stuff, and you get in the mindset that this is a tribute to Hammer horror and Universal horror. And despite the story having literally a devil in it, you never get the impression that it's like a dark or a gothic story. The devil, despite having a sound effect on his voice, talks just like a normal average alien at the end of the day. Even like bantering a bit at the end, which I think was really, it just didn't click with me in the story. So I think, and the story mainly has our little team of crew taking what they call a time bubble with them. So like time is frozen unless they go up to something close. They'll stay still. And they get introduced to this bug creature's queen, and she saves a little young bug creature. And yeah, and it just kind of distracts because you know that they can't just go have the villains win now because they've got to build up for the next few episodes. So yeah, it's just, I don't know what to say. It's just an overall weak adventure. I just didn't enjoy it. I did kind of like the characters though. None of them had anything big or interesting to do in terms of a personality. But the acting gets enough charm, and the writing is witty enough that there is some enjoyment out of it. I especially like the cyborg character who used to work like in a desk job, and now he's been chucked into this, and so he's like a little bit of a coward. And there's a great scene in which he explains, it's like I lose all the time. It's like the bug creature is like, I failed my planet once before, I will not fail again. And the cyborg is like, I fail all the time. Failing's easy. That I admit gave me a little bit of a chuckle. But the problem is that as a viewing audience, the story doesn't want you to focus on the characters, and not such the characters have suffered. The story is focusing on build up for the next few stories, and for me personally, it really distracts from the story it's trying to tell. Maybe, I don't know how I would fix this particular adventure. Maybe have, I don't know, the Draconians were just not interesting. The planet they on was just a bit dull. Just bug people with voices. They, but yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm literally like lost for words. I don't know what to say. It's just a pretty weak adventure in my opinion. Alex Kingston is a beauty like always. She's a phenomenal actress. The acting throughout the board is a mixture of great, like with Alex Kingston, and I like her rival on the expedition, this woman who she used to work with. I can't remember her name, but she's played by the woman who plays Agatha Christie in Unicorn and the Wasp. You can see a picture of her over there. The rest of the cast are pretty okay, if they do kind of feel like they're miscast, especially the Discoria, which is a terrible thing to say, because this story is supposed to build them up, and yet I've come out of this story feeling underwhelmed and not really particularly interested on finding out what's happened, apart from the fact that I know going into this that the Fourth Doctor is going to be in the last adventure. So hopefully with the, like, I struggle to enjoy these kind of stories where it's just build up for another story. If it was building up for its own story, maybe you could have Bottle in Time Part 2, and all Part 1 is the build up and Part 2 is the actual story then. I would be completely fine with that. But the fact that it's building up to a story that it's not even part of, it makes you feel like this story's going, hey, I know that I'm not good, but go and keep watching the other ones, and maybe you'll get one eventually that's good, aka the finale. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the Diary of River Song, Time in a Bottle. Overall, I could skip this. Obviously, it's part of a box set, so if the other ones are any good, which I've heard mixed things, leaning to negative, but I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening. Not mainly because of this story, but just mainly because I like Doctor Who and River Song. So there you go. So that's Time in a Bottle. So join me next time when we go back to TV. We get introduced to the Crinoids, and we have a little part in the Arctic and a little bit back in Britain. So join me next time for the Seeds of Doom. Or is it the Seeds of Death? I can't remember. Oh God, no!